The wind moved slowly across the empty wasteland as the human traveler walked alone through the broken land. His boots pressed into the dry sand, and every step made a soft crunch that echoed in the silence. The sky above him was full of gray clouds, hanging low like a heavy blanket. He had been traveling this alien planet for days, looking for lost supply roads, old shelters, and anything useful left after the war. But today felt different. There was something strange in the air. Something that made him walk slower and listen more carefully. He paused when he heard a sound very soft, like a small cry. It was not the wind, and it was not an animal. It was the sound of a child trying not to be heard. The human looked around the ruins, his eyes scanning the broken metal pieces and burned buildings. The planet had once been full of life, but now it was only dust and old memories. He took slow steps toward the sound. His hand rested on his belt, not for a weapon, but for caution. After a few more steps, he saw something move behind a fallen wall. It was shaking like someone cold or scared. He moved closer, and then he saw her. A small alien girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, sat behind the wall. Her skin was pale, almost silver, and her large eyes were full of fear. She hugged a small handmade doll tightly to her chest. The doll was old and dirty, but it looked loved. The girl looked up at the human, her lips trembling, her body thin like she had not eaten for many days. Before the human could speak, another soft cry came from behind the ruins. He looked to the side and saw a second girl, smaller, weaker, lying on the ground with her face toward the dirt. Her little hands were pulling grass and eating it slowly, like she was trying to survive in the only way she could. The human felt something twist. Inside his chest, he slowly crouched down so he did not look scary. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The older sister looked at him for a long moment. Her hands shook, but then she took a deep breath. She stood up slowly, stepped forward, and held her doll out toward him. Her voice was so weak that the human almost could not hear it. "Human? Please take my doll," she whispered. "Please give us bread. My sister is starving." The human stared at the doll. It was made of old cloth and tied with small threads. It must have been the only thing she had left from her family. He looked at the girl again. Her eyes were dry, like she had cried too much to cry anymore. "You don't have to give me your doll," the human said, his voice quiet. "That's something precious." But the girl pushed it toward him again. "Please, it's all I have. You have bread, my sister. She eats grass. She is dying." Behind her, the younger girl coughed a weak, painful sound. Her small body shook, and the human could see her ribs clearly through her thin skin. She was too weak to even look up. The human took a deep breath. He opened his bag and pulled out a piece of bread. The older sister's eyes widened, and she held her breath like she was scared the bread would disappear if she blinked. He broke the bread into 2 pieces and gave one to each girl. The younger sister slowly lifted her head, her eyes unfocused. When she saw the bread, her tiny hands reached forward with desperate hunger. She ate slowly at first, then faster, as if afraid someone would take it away. The older sister did not eat her piece immediately. Instead, she held it close to her sister's mouth. Letting her eat more while she waited, the human watched them, feeling a heaviness in his heart. These children had survived something terrible. This land was full of danger, and yet they had stayed alive barely. "What happened to your family?" the human asked gently. The older sister looked down. "They are gone," she whispered. "Monsters came. They took everything. We ran, we hid. No food, no help." She stopped speaking because her voice broke. The human stood slowly and looked around the wasteland. The air felt colder now. Somewhere far away, he could hear metal moving. Footsteps. or machines. Someone else was on this planet. Someone dangerous. He looked back at the sisters. Their eyes were on him, full of hope and fear. He knew he could not walk away now, not from them, not today. The human sat quietly near the two alien sisters, watching them eat the bread with slow, careful bites. The older sister held her peace tightly, but still let her younger sister eat first. It was clear she had done this many times, kept herself hungry so the little one could survive a little longer. The human had seen suffering before on many planets, but something about these two children made the air feel heavier. Their silence was too mature for their age. Like they had learned fear before they learned dreams. After the younger sister finished eating, she curled against her older sister and closed her eyes, breathing steady but weak. The human could still see her ribs. Her skin had a sickly pale glow, showing she had not eaten real food for many days. The older sister wiped her sibling's mouth gently with the corner of her worn dress, then looked up at the human. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved her." The human shook his head. "She needs more than bread. She needs real food, water, warmth, safety." The older sister nodded slowly. Her eyes dropped to the doll in her hand. She held it again, hugging it tightly. The human noticed something, a small tear in the doll's cloth. Inside was a tiny bead with a carved symbol. The human had seen this symbol before in old history files. It belonged to a high-ranking family from an ancient alien clan. A clan that was supposed to be extinct. He did not ask questions yet. Instead, he asked, "What are your names?" The older sister hesitated, then said, "My name is Leary. My sister is Tally. Leary, how long have you two been alone?" She lowered her head. "I don't know, days. The sun came and went many times. We ran when the soldiers attacked the colony. Mama said to run and hide. She held Tally and told me to protect her. She pushed us into a small hole under the house. She closed it." Leary's voice grew softer. "We never saw Mama or Papa again." The human felt a tightness in his chest. He looked at the wasteland around them, burned homes, broken towers, silent ruins. It made sense. Many colonies had fallen fast, leaving children like these two lost and forgotten. But then something made him turn his head sharply. He heard a distant metal click. It was not wind, it was not an animal. It was a weapon locking. The human's body stiffened. He crouched lower and placed a finger to his lips, signaling Leary to stay quiet. She nodded quickly, pulling Tally close and covering her with her small arms. Her breathing became fast and shaky. The human moved slowly toward the edge of the ruins. He peered from behind a broken wall and saw them, 3 alien soldiers in dark armor walking across the sand. Their helmets shone under the dull sky, and each carried long rifles. They were scanning the ground, checking footprints, searching for something. Or someone, the human whispered to himself. "They're tracking survivors." He moved back to the sisters. "Leary, you must not make any sound. Those soldiers, they are dangerous." Leary's eyes widened. "They came before," she whispered. "They shot everyone. They looked for children. They said they wanted samples." She swallowed hard. "Papa said they take children to experiment on them." The human felt a chill run through him. He looked at Tally's fragile body. Then he looked at Leary. Suddenly, everything made sense, the symbol on the doll. The soldiers searching the ruins, the hunger, the fear. These children weren't just lost, they were targets. "I need to move you," the human said. "We can't stay here. They are close." Leary shook her head and held her sister tightly. "Tally can't walk far. She gets tired. Please, don't leave us." The human knelt beside them. "I won't leave you," he said firmly. "But we have to hide until they pass." He scanned the area and spotted a broken cargo container, half buried in sand. It was rusted and dented, but the inside looked dark enough to hide two small children. He lifted Tally gently, and she whimpered weakly, but didn't wake. Her body felt too light-like she weighed less than she should. Leary followed quietly, holding the doll and staying close. The human placed both sisters inside the container, covered the opening with debris, and left only a small gap for air. "Stay here," he whispered. "No noise." Leary nodded, her eyes full of trembling fear, but also trust. The human moved back to the ruins, hiding behind broken stone just as the soldiers approached. Their heavy steps grew louder. Their shadows stretched long across the sand. One soldier bent down and touched the ground. "Footprints," he growled. "Fresh ones." Another soldier lifted his weapon. "Search the area. The children must still be alive. Command wants them." The human clenched his fists. He knew he had only seconds before things turned deadly. He breathed slowly. He prepared himself. He would not let them find the sisters, not while he still lived. The human stayed low behind the cracked stone wall, watching the soldiers move closer. The sand shifted under their heavy boots, and the sound of metal touching metal echoed across the ruins. Their dark armored suits made them look like shadows with rifles. These were not simple patrol guards. Their movements were sharp, trained, and full of cruel purpose. They were hunters searching for prey. One soldier bent down again and touched the ground. "3 sets of prints," he said. "1 adult. 2 small ones." The human's heart tightened. Leary and Tally were only a few meters away, hidden inside the cargo container. If the soldiers walked near it, they would see the disturbed sand. They would tear everything open. They would take the girls. He knew what that meant. Experiments, pain, disappearance. He breathed slowly through his nose, calming himself. He could not attack, not yet. One wrong move, and the sisters would be trapped between rifles and death. Another soldier raised a small scanner. Its red light flickered across the ground. Life signs nearby. Faint, 2 small signatures. 1 week. The human froze. They were sensing Tally. He needed to distract them fast. A small, broken metal plate lay near his boot. Slowly, carefully, he picked it up and tossed it far across the ruins. It hit a collapsed tower with a loud clang. The soldiers turned instantly. There, one shouted, "Move." All 3 rushed toward the noise, rifles lifted, posture aggressive. As they ran, they fired warning shots into the rubble, bright blue beams cutting through dust. The human used this moment. He slipped back to the cargo container, removed the debris covering the entrance, and whispered urgently, "Leary, we need to move. Now." Leary crawled forward immediately, holding her sister and her doll. Tally's eyes were half open, weak but conscious. She recognized the human and tried to reach for him with tiny, trembling fingers. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm here." He lifted Tally gently and placed her against his chest. She felt cold, too cold for a child. Leary followed close, her steps shaky but determined. She clutched the doll in one hand, the human shirt in the other. "Are they coming?" She whispered, "Yes," the human said softly. "But I won't let them take you." He meant it. Every word. The human led them away from the ruins and into a narrow path between large, broken cargo tanks. The walls were tall enough to block the soldiers' view, but the path was long and filled with debris. They had to move quickly, but quietly. Leary kept looking back nervously. "Why do they want us?" She whispered. The human hesitated, choosing his words. "Your family, your clan. They were special. The symbol inside your doll, I've seen it in old data files. You come from a rare bloodline. Maybe your families were leaders once, maybe healers, maybe something powerful. But after the colony attack, the soldiers probably want children like you for experiments. They want to study you. Leary held the doll tighter. Mama said we must never let them take us. She was right, the human said. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed across the ruins. Dust rose into the air. The ground shook lightly. The soldiers had discovered the fake noise and now knew someone tricked them. A voice shouted angrily from behind. Track the footprints again. Don't let them escape. The human's pulse quickened. They were coming. He moved faster, carrying Tali and guiding Leary. The path twisted left, then right, leading into an old, half-destroyed marketplace. Stone pillars, broken stalls, and shattered glass lay everywhere. It looked abandoned, but the human knew abandoned places could hide more danger. He placed Tali down behind a stone counter for a moment and checked the area. No movement. No heat signatures. No hidden patrols. It was safe for now. Leary knelt beside her sister, brushing dust from her face. "Stay awake, Tali," she whispered. "We're almost safe." The human crouched beside them. "Leary, listen to me. The soldiers won't stop. They will follow until they find you. But I know a place on Old Shelter not far from here. It has food, water, medical supplies. We can rest there." Leary nodded quickly, hope shining in her tired eyes. "Can we really stay there?" For a while, the human said, "Long enough to help Tali." Just then, a shadow moved across the sand. The human's instincts reacted instantly. He grabbed Leary, pulled her down, and covered Tali with his body. A rifle beam cut through the air, striking the pillar behind them. The soldiers had reached the marketplace. There, one of them shouted, "The children!" Leary shrieked softly and covered Tali with her arms. The human rose with fury in his eyes. He had tried to avoid a fight, but now he had no choice. He whispered, "Stay behind me." The human stepped forward, facing 3 armored soldiers alone. He was outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched. But he wasn't afraid, because behind him were 2 starving children, who had no one else in the universe. He clenched his fists. He had something worth fighting for. The human stood between the soldiers and the 2 alien sisters, his body tense, his mind racing. The soldiers spread out, moving carefully across the broken marketplace. Their armor made low, grinding sounds as they stepped over stone, glass, and rubble. Blue rifle lights glowed like hungry eyes, searching for weakness. "Step aside, human," one soldier growled. "Those children belong to command. They are property now." The human's jaw tightened. "Children are not property." The soldiers lifted their rifles. The human moved first. He grabbed a broken metal pole from the ground and threw it toward the far wall. It clattered loudly. The soldiers turned their heads for 1 second. Confused, but 1 second was more than enough. The human rushed forward, grabbed Tali with one arm, pulled Leary with the other, and sprinted through a narrow gap between ruined stalls. Laser beams fired behind them, burning holes in the stone. Leary screamed but held on to the human's shirt, refusing to let go. Tali lay limp, her breathing soft but steady. The human ran through the dark alleyway and slid behind a fallen pillar. The sisters ducked with him. Dust fell from the stones as another blast shook the area. "We can't outrun them forever," the human whispered. "We need to disappear." He pointed to a half-buried stairway leading underground. The entrance was narrow, broken, and almost invisible beneath years of sand. Most soldiers wouldn't notice it. "Down there," he said. Leary hesitated. "What is that place?" "Shadows," the human replied. "Old tunnels from before the war. Very few know them." The sisters followed him down. The staircase creaked under their weight, and cold air wrapped around them as they descended. The deeper they went, the darker it became. Leary held the doll close, her fingers shaking. The human switched on a small handlight, and its warm glow filled the tunnel. The underground corridor was long and silent. Metal pipes hung overhead, some broken, dripping water. The walls were scratched, marked by past survivors who had tried to hide here long ago. The human looked for signs of fresh danger tracks, heat signatures, or movement, but saw nothing. For now, it was safe. Tali groaned softly. Her tiny hand reached out toward the human's chest. He pressed her hand gently. "Stay with us, little one." Leary walked beside him, watching her sister's face anxiously. "Is she going to be okay?" "She will," he said, though he wasn't sure. "There's medical gear in the old shelter. We just need to reach it." They walked deeper into the tunnel. The air smelled of rust and old machinery. Drops of water echoed through the darkness like distant clock ticks. Every sound felt louder here. Then the human heard something else, a faint metallic tapping. He froze. Leary looked up. "What is it?" "Quiet," he whispered. He listened again. 3 seconds. Then tap. 5 seconds. Another tap. It was too slow to be footsteps, too controlled to be random noise. Someone was signaling. The human motioned for Leary to stay behind him. He walked ahead slowly. Handlight pointed toward the far end of the tunnel. A broken ventilation grate hung loose. Behind it, something moved. The human raised his weapon, but then a soft voice whispered from the shadows. "Are you human?" He blinked. The voice was weak, like someone had been underground for a long time. "Who are you?" he asked. The figure stepped closer to the grate. It was an alien woman, thin, pale, injured, with a cut across her forehead. Her clothes were torn, and her breathing was uneven. "I escaped the soldiers," she said. "They hunt children. I heard them in the tunnels." "Are there others with you?" The human hesitated. He didn't know if she was lying. Leary grabbed his sleeve and whispered, "Maybe she knows places to hide." The alien woman's eyes fell on the sisters. She gasped. "Those girls, they're from the royal line. Their family protected us for generations. That's why the soldiers want them. Their blood has secrets. Abilities that command wants to control." Leary clutched her doll tighter. "Mama said, never tell anyone." The human studied the woman. She looked genuinely afraid, not dangerous, but desperate. "Can you walk?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not far." He made a decision. "We're heading to an old shelter. If you can guide us, I'll help you." The woman nodded weakly. "I know the way." Behind them, the tunnel lights flickered on. Then a loud explosion shook the entire corridor. Dust rained from the ceiling. The soldiers had found the stairway. There in the tunnels. A voice shouted above. The woman cried out. "They're coming." The human lifted Tali again. "Move." Leary grabbed his shirt. The alien woman limped beside them, leading the way. The tunnels twisted left and right, turning into deeper darkness. The sisters breathed fast, frightened. The human kept checking behind them. Blue rifle lights flickered in the distance. The soldiers were entering the tunnels, and now the human had only one choice: run or be trapped in the dark. He held the children close. He didn't plan to die today, not while carrying 2 starving girls. Who believed in him? The tunnels grew tighter as the human, the sisters, and the injured alien woman moved deeper into the underground. The air felt colder, heavier, filled with the smell of rust and old metal. Every step echoed softly, mixing with the distant shouts of soldiers hunting them. The human held Tali close, feeling her weak breathing against his chest. Leary walked beside him, her small hand clutching his sleeve. Refusing to let go, the alien woman limped ahead, using the wall for support. "Not far now," she said in a shaky voice. "The old shelter. It should still be there." The human remained alert. Something about her tones, something about the strange tapping earlier kept bothering him. But for now, the children needed safety. And this woman was the only one who seemed to know these tunnels well. They reached a large, circular chamber. Old lights flickered on the ceiling, barely glowing. Broken crates lay scattered around. A metal door stood across the chamber with faded markings. The alien woman pointed to it. "That room," she whispered. "Medical kits. Food. Everything we need." The human stepped closer, but before he touched the door, he stopped suddenly. Footprints, fresh ones, human-sized. Someone had been here recently. He scanned the room. Leary felt his body tense and whispered, "What is wrong?" He whispered back, "Stay close. Don't let go of your sister." The metal door creaked open before he touched it. A figure stepped out, a man in human armor. For a moment, the human froze. He recognized the uniform. It belonged to the same security division he once worked 4 years ago. The man's eyes widened in shock. "You?" The armored man said, "I thought you were dead." The human narrowed his eyes. "I left that life. I'm not part of command anymore." The man stepped closer, his gaze shifting to Leary and Tali. "You found them, didn't you? The royal bloodline kids. Command wants them alive. Big reward. Enough to buy freedom for 10 lifetimes." Leary instantly moved behind the human, trembling. Tali whimpered softly. The armored man smiled coldly. "Hand them over. You get the reward. No one gets hurt." The human tightened his grip on Tali. "They are just children." The man shrugged. "Children with valuable blood. Their DNA can change everything." The human felt the betrayal building, but he kept his voice calm. "Let us pass." The man raised his rifle. "No, you can't protect them. But I can make sure none of you suffer. Give them to me." The alien woman suddenly leaned against the wall, her body shaking. "He's lying," she whispered. "Humans, like him. They sell children to command." The armored man glared at her. "You should have died days ago." He stepped forward, blocking the exit. The human slowly put Leary behind him and whispered, "Protect your sister, no matter what." Leary held Tali tightly, her small body shaking. Tears gathered in her big eyes. The armored man sighed. "Don't make this hard. Move aside." The human didn't move. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the armored man fired. The blast hit the metal beside the human, sparks flying. The sisters screamed. The alien woman fell to the floor, covering her head. The human dropped low, rolled behind a crate, and hid the children behind it. "Stay down," he whispered. The man advanced slowly, confident. "You were a good soldier once, but you're soft now. You care too much." He fired again. The shot cracked through the chamber, shaking the walls. The human moved fast. He grabbed a metal rod from the ground, lunged forward, and struck the rifle. The shot went wild, hitting the ceiling. Dust fell like snow. The man stumbled, surprised at the speed. "You're faster than I remember," he growled. The human didn't answer. He swung again, hitting the man's arm. The rifle fell. Leary gasped, but stayed hidden, pressing Tile close to her chest. The man punched the human hard. The human staggered, but didn't fall. Instead, he pushed forward and pinned the man against the wall. "Why are you doing this?" The human demanded. The man smirked. "For power. For money. For freedom. These kids are the key to everything." Before he could move again, the alien woman, despite her injuries, picked up the fallen rifle. Her hands shook, but her aim was steady. "Stay." "Away from them," she hissed. The armored man froze the human quickly, grabbed the children, and stepped back. The alien woman fired. A single blast. The man collapsed to the floor. Silence filled the chamber for a long moment. The alien woman dropped the rifle, breathing heavily. He followed me when I escaped. He wanted me to lead him to the children. The human nodded slowly. The betrayal made sense now. He checked the children. Tally was breathing weakly. Leary still shaking, but safe. He placed a hand on Leary's shoulder. "You're safe. I won't let anyone take you." Leary looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "Why do they want us so much?" He touched the doll gently, the symbol still visible through the tear. "Because you and your sister are more important than you know." Behind them, the soldiers? Voices echoed through the tunnels. They were coming, and now the chase would continue, but the human was no longer running to hide. He was running to protect. The human could hear the soldiers getting closer. Their heavy boots pounded through the tunnels like metal thunder, shaking dust from the pipes above. Leary held her sister tightly, her small arms shaking. The alien woman leaned against the wall, breathing hard, her wound bleeding again. The armored man lay motionless on the ground, the echo of betrayal still hanging in the cold air. The human knew they had only minutes, maybe seconds, before the next wave of soldiers reached the chamber. He knelt beside Leary. "We have to move now." Leary nodded quickly, though her lips trembled. "Tally, she feels colder." He checked Tail-Eye's forehead. Her skin was ice cold, her breathing shallow. She needed warmth and real medical care soon, or she would not survive. "We're going to save her," he said firmly, making sure Leary heard strength in his voice. The alien woman pointed weakly toward the tunnel on the far left. "That way leads to the old surface ladders. They come out near the abandoned landing field. If we reach it, you can escape." The human stared at her. "Can you walk?" She tried, but fell against the wall with a pained gasp. "I'll only slow you down. Take the children." Leary shook her head fiercely. "No. Come with us." For a moment, the alien woman smiled softly. "You speak like your mother. Always worried about others." Leary's eyes filled with tears. She hugged her doll tightly. Another shout echoed down the tunnel, closer this time. "Spread out. Find them." The human lifted Tally again into his arms and grabbed Leary's hand. "We move now." They ran into the left tunnel. The lights flickered overhead, buzzing like dying insects. Pipes hissed steam. The air grew warmer, but heavy with dust. Leary kept pace beside the human, even though her legs trembled with every step. Behind them, the soldiers entered the chamber they had just left. They went this way. Voices roared in the dark. The chase had begun. The tunnel twisted sharply, and the humans slid behind a broken support beam just as laser fire lit up the corridor behind them. Blue shots crackled against the walls, sending sparks in every direction. Leary covered her head, shaking, but stayed close. "Stay down." The human whispered a soldier's shadow appeared around the corner. The human grabbed a loose metal pipe and threw it with full strength. It hit the soldier's helmet with a loud clang, knocking him off balance. Before he could recover, the human grabbed the girls and sprinted again. They reached a rusty ladder, going up through a narrow shaft. Leary looked up, terrified. "It's so high." "You can climb it," the human said. "I'll be right behind you." "But Tally." "How will you?" "I'll carry her," he said. "Now go." Leary took one deep breath, held her doll with her teeth, and climbed. The human placed Tally securely in one arm and followed, one-handed, pushing hard with his legs. The ladder shook with every step, pieces flaking off like dying rust. A soldier fired upward. The shot sizzled past the human's shoulder. Hurry. He shouted .lir. I climbed faster, tears running down her face, both from fear and exhaustion. The human felt Taylor's small heartbeat growing slower. He pressed her closer, whispering, "Stay with me. Stay alive." They reached the top and rolled onto hard ground. The human pulled Leary close just as another blast hit the ladder, snapping its lower rungs. "Come on," he said, lifting Tali again. They burst out onto the surface. The sky was dark purple, clouds swirling with dust. The landing field lay ahead, huge broken ships, rusted metal skeletons, and abandoned cargo crates. The wind howled, pushing sand across the ground. Leary looked around, confused. "Where do we go?" The human pointed to a half-buried transport ship not far away. "That one. It might still have power." They ran across the field. The wind nearly knocked Leary over, but she kept going. The human pushed open the ship's old hatch. It creaked loudly, but opened enough for them to slip in. The inside was cold and dark. The human placed Tali on a seat and ripped open an old emergency kit. Inside, he found heat wraps and began applying them to Taylor's chest and arms. "Lir." I held her doll close and whispered shakily, "Please get better. Please." Outside, soldiers' voices echoed across the field. "Check the ships." The human rushed to the cockpit and smashed the control panel cover. Old wires sparkled. He rewired power lines with practiced speed. The engines coughed once, twice, then hummed to life. The lights inside the ship flickered brightly. Leary gasped with hope. "We can fly. We can try," the human said. Soldiers ran toward the ship. Blue rifle beams sliced the air. "Take off." Leary screamed. The human slammed the controls. The engines roared. The ship trembled. Soldiers reached the hatch. One soldier grabbed the edge. But the human hit the thrusters. A massive blast of dust exploded outward. The ship lifted into the air, shaking violently. The soldier fell back as the ship climbed through the dust storm. Leary fell to her knees, crying in relief. The human looked at the sisters. "We're not safe yet," he said. "But we're free for now." He looked ahead into the sky, determination burning in his eyes. He would keep them safe, even if the whole galaxy came after them. The old transport ship shook violently as it cut through the dark sky, pushing through clouds full of dust. The engines screamed, fighting against years of rust and damage, but the human kept his hands firm on the controls. He knew this ship could fall apart at any second, yet it was the only thing keeping the children alive. Leary sat beside him, holding Tali tightly. Her small face pressed against her sister's forehead, hoping to warm her even a little. "Is she getting better?" the human asked, without turning. Leary swallowed hard. She feels a little warmer. But she still looks tired." The human nodded. "We're almost there." "Where?" Leary whispered. "A safe planet," he replied. "Far from soldiers, far from command, far from everyone who wants to hurt you." Leary didn't fully understand, but she trusted him. She had trusted him since the moment he gave her sister bread without asking for anything in return. She rested her head against Taylor's and whispered a small promise. "We will be safe soon. I know it." The ship shook again as blaster fires streaked past the windows. The human's eyes widened. "They're still after us." A large military cruiser appeared behind them, its lights like angry stars in the night sky. Soldiers shouted through the radio, "Stop the ship." The children belonged to command. The human ignored the message and pushed the thrusters harder. The old ship groaned loudly, panels rattling. But it kept moving forward. Leary's fingers tightened around Tali. "They're coming again. They won't reach us," the human said. "Hold on." The cruiser fired again. Blue beams hit the ship's tail, shaking everything inside. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Alarms screamed. Leary cried out as the ship dropped sharply before leveling again. The human breathed deep. He knew one thing. He could not outrun the cruiser forever. So he changed his plan. Instead of running straight, he dove into a thick storm cloud. Lightning crackled close to the ship, but the storm hid them from the scanners. Minutes passed in heavy silence. Finally, the radio went quiet. The cruiser faded from the radar. "They're gone," the human whispered. "We did it." Leary let out a long, shaky breath. Tali moved weakly in her arms and opened her eyes a little. Her voice was soft as a feather. "Leary?" Hungry, Leary almost cried from relief. She spoke. She spoke. The human smiled. "She's getting better." After several long hours, the storm cleared. Ahead of them shone a small green planet, peaceful, quiet, untouched by war. "That's Haven 9, the human said. "A neutral world. No armies, no command. Just farmers, traders, and refugees. People who mind their own lives." Leary looked at the planet with wide eyes. "Will they let us stay?" "They will," he said softly. "I'll make sure of it." The ship landed in a wide grass field near a small settlement. The warm sun touched the ground, and gentle wind blew through tall grass. It felt like another world calm, safe, alive. When the hatch opened, fresh air rushed in. Tali breathed it deeply, her chest rising a little stronger. Leary helped her stand, though her legs were still weak. The human picked her up gently, holding her like a father holds a child he refuses to lose. A group of settlers walked toward them, humans and aliens together. Their leader, an older human woman, stopped in front of them. "You look like you've been through fire," she said. "We escaped command," the human replied. "These children, they need help." The woman looked at the girls. Her eyes softened immediately. "Poor little things. Bring them inside. We'll take care of them." They were guided into a warm home. Tali was placed in a soft bed. Heaters were turned on. A doctor brought warm food and medicine. Leary watched with trembling hope as Tali swallowed small spoonfuls of soup. A tiny smile appeared on the younger sister's face. Leary burst into tears, not of fear, but of relief. The human placed a hand on her head. "She's safe now." "You both are." Leary hugged him tightly. "You saved us." "No," he said gently. "You saved each other. I only helped." For the first time since he met her, Leary smiled a small, shy smile, but full of life. Days passed. Tali grew stronger. Leary laughed again. The settlement adopted them with warm hearts. They had a small house now, food, friends, safety. One evening, as the sun painted the sky gold, the human stood outside, preparing to leave. Leary ran to him, her doll in her arms. "Are you going?" He knelt beside her. "Others out there need help too. But I'll come back. I promise." She hugged him tightly. "Please be safe." He smiled. "I will." As he walked toward his ship, he glanced back one last time. Two alien sisters stood at their doorway, alive, fed, safe, and they waved at the man who saved their lives. Hope had returned to their world, and the human knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something better.